What I would like to know from you, Chris, is how much did the sign cost? Or do you know?
No, that question should have been yours. I was going to say we should lead right into the building.
Have a punt. What do you reckon? Put a dollar figure on it.
Got it. Now the question is, you got the rights when you got the building. When we got the office space, you got the rights to the building signage.
Sure.
Which was huge. I don't know. That's a story I want to know. That's an awesome piece of negotiation to be like, this was the full package.
Yeah.
Because the building wasn't branded. It was just basically 3 Loftus.
Correct.
It was a real nice big building on the corner of Loftus and Railway, and it wasn't branded.
Yeah. So when we obviously got in here, which was about coming up to 5 years ago, the landmark tenant that they'd got in was Beyond Bank.
Yes.
Beyond Bank at that time, I think, were doing something with the Fremantle Dockers. They were certainly doing quite a bit of advertising at Optus when the Dockers were playing. So I'm assuming that that's the connection there. I'm not entirely certain.
Yep.
And look, I'd been in love with this building probably a year before I even had the balls to call the agent, which at the time was JLL. And
I remember how excited you were too.
I was intimidated, to be frank. I was too scared to call the guy because I was too scared of what it was going to cost and whether I could afford to move. Right. Yeah. So, as you know, we were out in an office I owned in East Victoria Park, but we'd quickly realised that was a bit of a boo-boo, and we were out in the sticks, and we'd essentially taken ourselves out of the game.
Yes.
Lesson learned. Yep. We also had no signage or street exposure there apart from some stickers on the windows. It was pretty rudimentary.
That was it. Yeah.
And, at the time I was very much looking to rebuild, and we were going through that rebrand to PWD from Perth Web Design, and that kind of was all happening.
Yep.
And out of sheer cheek, I think I was on basement level 2, and I just sort of said, how about signage rights? And he said, make us an offer.
Wow.
Well, he gave me a number, which I won't say. And then I said, can't afford that. I'll make you an offer. And I did, and it got accepted. So I couldn't believe my luck, to be quite frank, that Beyond Bank hadn't taken it. I had no idea at the time what the fabrication or the logistics of putting a sign up was going to cost me, which was horrendous.
That was quite the journey.
That was quite the journey, and it was in two parts. So we had a general manager here at the time who was tasked with that job, as also fitting out the office space that we have here. And that was a sort of a joint contract. And anyway, council approval, engineers, when you put a sign up of that size on such a busy intersection, you do need obviously sign-offs, from the local shire, local council, main roads. We had to have a light engineer.
I was going to say, we needed to make sure that the lighting was a certain type of
It couldn't leak
brightness.
Well, it couldn't leak because obviously we've got residential apartments,
windows just below it.
Yeah, the top 3 floors, and things didn't go according to plan, and I'll go through those in a second. But
a lot of people watch the letters come down, go back up, back down, go back up.
So the sign gets fabricated. I go up to the warehouse, and of course you see it on the floor standing up, and you're like, wow, that looks amazing.
Yeah, you sent that photo.
This is going to be the best thing ever. But of course you're not aware of what it's going to look like from a kilometre away, and of course 8 stories up on the side.
And we did mock-ups and everything, and I think one of the things too was that we wanted, at that point when we were PWD, we had a different brand. Even when we started to rebrand ourselves as PWD, we had the lowercase PWD.
We did, yeah. But we decided obviously to go with the uppercase on the building to make it more visible.
Yeah, the X-height was way too much.
Yeah. And so roughly that sign in meters is about 8 meters wide by about 3 meters high. Yep. Now, I was tasked with having to organise the crane hire. The problem with the crane hire is that all the cranes were booked. Yeah. The only crane I could get was a company called ABC Crane Hire, who was down in Port Kennedy or Mandurah.
Yep.
And I, obviously not being familiar with booking cranes, asked him his hourly rate. I didn't realise he starts the meter from the second he turns on the engine.
It's like a taxi.
He literally, as soon as he started his engine in Port Kennedy and drove up here.
Are you serious?
hit the meter.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
the bills I got were just extortionate. It was costing me, I don't know, the better of $5,000 a day
Yeah.
just for the crane hire.
And they had to close the street and everything. And they had.
There was then obviously traffic people. We also had the riggers, the guys that were hanging off the building.
Oh, yeah.
That were drilling the struts
Ropes.
into the side of the building in order to affix the sign to, right? And being that each letter weighs about 380 kilos, they're fairly substantial.
Yeah.
And these guys, I think, were on about 10,000 a day.
Wow.
Because it's high risk.
Yeah.
There's only like 10 of them in WA.
Yeah.
They're always booked out. And, you've got to feel sorry for them. It was like this time of year, it was hot.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was windy and they were swinging left and right on the building, I remember. And they had to down tools a couple of times.
Yeah.
The drill bits kept snapping and it was just, and of course, I was told that they're going to need to drill for 2 or 3 days and then get the crane there and then, we'll start fixing the signs of the building.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it took them so long to drill into the side of the building because of concrete and steel work and behind. That crane sat there and did sweet.
I remember.
And
didn't do anything.
And this crane driver's just laughing, just eating his sandwiches, drinking his coffee, and he's making like $800-900 an hour just sitting around twiddling his thumbs. And but the problem is, we were under the expectation that that was going to be done again. That's all.
Oh, we learned though.
Goddamn, did we learn? We learned the hard way. And then for people that know the old signage that went up.
Yep.
Of course, the mistake we learned there with typography and
we didn't have backing either. So when you came over the exit coming off of Grand Farmer and you were basically crossing over the top before you hit Loftus, the sign was placed in the right place, but the problem is the back of the building has a raise, and that raise was pure white.
Yeah.
So with that and the sky,
it got lost.
That thing just blended right in without any kind of back.
Got lost. But what other funny shenanigan? Obviously, we put signage on all 4 sides of the building. We were due to put signage on one of the sides with apartments, the skinnier side of one of the buildings, which I think was maybe this far side.
Yeah.
And it happened to be the owner of the building turned up at the same time this was happening. The guys that had drilled and put the fixings on had set it so the sign, unfortunately, was going to overlap. Like drop into the viewport of one of the apartments.
Yes.
So this poor person that lived in that apartment at the time, which was on the 8th floor, would have probably been seeing about just 300 millimeters at the bottom end of my, so like the bottom rectangle of the P and the bottom of the W and the bottom of the D.
Yeah.
And of course, fair play to the owner. He cracked the shit, shut down the site, told us to stop and go home. So we did only have, I think, 2 sides up for a long time, and we just dealt with that.
Which is actually it's probably fortunate that happened, because if we had put up all 4 sides with our original kind of design and typography, it wouldn't have worked. So we were able to course correct. We rebranded again. We basically did like a nice little soft rebrand.
Yep. Where we did a thicker version.
Thicker font, a little bit more commanding, and have it. And what was great about that was when we did it in channel letters, it created more of a brightness to the kick out.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing that building at night, it has such good
impact. Sure.
Good display.
So as people that are familiar with PWD as a brand would have perhaps seen that everything had to come crashing down.
Yep.
Of course, that was a whole nother lot of fees with traffic management and crane hire and stuff, but relatively quick in the scheme of things. The instigator for that was I was driving up to the office one day and I looked at one of the letters and something looked like it was hanging off.
Yeah.
So we sent up a building inspector and he basically said, whoever put this up is a bit of a cowboy. It's pretty much held in by tech screws. And
the D was
it's dangerous. Considering that there is a very high traffic car park entrance underneath the main sign, it had to come off real quick. So that was that. So we took it down. It had to go back through council. It had to get reapproved by everybody. and engineers. We had to basically do all of that documentation and paperwork again.
Yeah.
It was highly frustrating because at this point I'd probably sunk the better part of $120,000.
All right, so there we've answered the question.
Well, that was phase one.
Oh, no.
So that was only the first phase.
I would never have even, I don't think I would have gotten close.
Just the fabrication of the sign and installation and the project management that was done by that original company was 70. Just for
Right, I was going to say around 80 something. That was before.
But that didn't include engineering. That didn't include getting it through council. That didn't include crane hire. That didn't include none of those things.
And you had to go back and forth and back and forth. And back
Yeah.
and forth.
And of course, at that point, you're like a gambler, right? I've got a lease where I'm paying for that signage contract regardless.
Yeah, you're already in, but
So
you're too far in. You can't pull out. You can't take it out.
And you're so sort of mentally invested.
Yeah.
So once we got all that done and we picked a good date, we went through the whole palaver again. But the second time round, we chose a company I'm more than happy to mention is called Super Signs in Balcatta.
Yeah, they're great.
Shout out to them. And, they did a great job and coordinated it, and the logistics and everything was taken care of them. And they're obviously a lot more adept at doing that.
Yep.
And I remember coming on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I was obviously just in shorts, t-shirt and a pair of thongs, looking pretty casual.
Yeah.
And I went to talk to one of the lollipop ladies, and she laughed at me and she said, the bloke that's paying for this, he's paying me double. I said, well, that would be me. And we had to pay double because, of course, it's on Loftus Street. And, being such a prominent highway, we can't close it during a weekday. So we did have to shut down one lane of Loftus Street.
Yeah.
We had a massive 80-ton Liebherr crane that helped bring the new signage in.
Yeah. We were very smart about it this time too. We created a really rich black backing.
Yep.
So
correct.
all the letters were going to have better contrast, and even the ones that we did on the other side of the building, we went vertical, which is really a tricky thing because when we had to do that, I was fighting against that for so long. I wanted it to be horizontal, but in like a block. And I think you and I had a good conversation where we're just saying you're never going to see that tiny block from a distance.
It wouldn't work out. And that's unfortunately just due to the design of the building, is that you've kind of got two fairly thin white strips on that side of the building with obviously windows in between for the commercial and residential tenants.
Yeah.
So we would have had to have done just taken one of those narrow strips, and they were only about a meter and a half wide or something. So,
but it makes it unique too, which is cool because even when I'm walking down from the car park, like I see the vertical version of it. And then when you swing around the other side of the building, you've got the horizontal.
Exactly.
So you've got these, it definitely takes over the whole building, but it's done in a couple of different ways. So I think that makes it unique.
Originally, I didn't get it approved by the ownership of the building, is I wanted to put up an LED billboard. And I
would love that.
I bought buy-in from the other tenants within this building. There's some very big tenants. We've got Orica Mining, who's on the top floor.
Yep.
Financial firms, and of course we've got banks, we've got lawyers, etc. And I thought, well, what we could do is obviously have share of voice, rotate it every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
We can all have a piece of the pie. And I actually did get buy-in.
Sounded great.
From every commercial tenant here bar one. And that was okay, because if you don't want to be on it, you don't. No dramas. And I'd sort pricing, and I was going to wrap, very similar to the BGC building in the city, if people know that one.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
I was going to go probably a bit more high definition than that, and, found a company in Shenzhen that provides those kind of screens. I was going to import it all and do all that and build the racking, and I was good to go. But unfortunately, the owner, it's his building at the end of the day, said he didn't want that from an aesthetic point of view, and fair enough.
Yeah. No, and the cool thing about it too now is I remember coming out of the building, finishing work, coming out of the building, and Uber Eats guy come up the stairs, and on his piece of paper, he was looking for the PWD building to bring this food to one of the apartments upstairs. Yeah. And the fact that he called it the PWD building, I was just like, that felt good. That's what he looked for was the PWD, but where before it was 3 Loftus. Yeah. Now it's the PWD building.
It's made it,
food.
It's made it a landmark. It's made it fair to say.
Right.
I think people recognize it enough.